girls from Rutgers, man, they got tattoos and
some hardcore hoes.
That's some nappy-headed hoes there, I'm going to tell you that now.
Oh, man.
Man, that's some... And the girls from Tennessee, they all look cute, you know, so... kind of like a... I don't know.
Spike Lee thing.
Yeah.
The Jigabos versus the Wannabes.
Vanessa Van Dyke's desire to be different has become an issue at her private school. Her look is being called a distraction. According to school administrators, the way she styles her hair is a violation of student conduct.
They just say, you should change your hair, you should make it straight, because it's too puffy.
The student handbook at Faith Christian Academy states hair must be a natural color and must not be a distraction.
As 15-year-old Ashanti Scott knows, hair can say so much about us. A cheerleader at Butler High in Louisville, Kentucky, she proudly wears hers in its natural, tightly curled state. So she was stunned this year when she saw her school's new dress code policy.
It was the hair, and I noticed that as you kept reading, it just added more and more hairstyles that were natural and mostly worn by Black people.
Fired for her natural hair. That's what one former news anchor says happened to her while working in Jackson, Mississippi.
Well, Brittney Noble is finally speaking out. She was wearing her new look for about a month. She said that her boss told her to switch it back, that new look was unprofessional.
The black lady that does the news is a very nice lady. The only thing is she needs to wear a wig or grow some more hair. I'm not sure if she is a cancer patient, but still, it's not something myself that I think looks good on TV.
A new trend in America is rising in which Black women are beginning to wear their natural hair. You can spot this trend in movies, pop stars, commercials, and magazine advertisements. Natural hair is everywhere. For years, Black women have worn hair extensions, wigs, and chemically processed hair in order to assimilate. Before we dive into the current obstacles of today, we must understand a brief history of Black hair in America.
African-American history is very important. I used to tell my students, and again at UTA, most of the courses I taught at this freshman level were predominantly white students. And I would tell them, that they were lucky because I got this background in African-American history so that I could sort of tell them, I hate to say it like this, tell them the truth. American history is just full of a lot of lies and myths and this whole notion of American exceptionalism where Americans don't look at their history critically.
Black hair has actually defined Black womanhood in a lot of ways across this experiment called the United States. Before slavery, the way that we wore our hair was indicative of our tribe, our spirituality. So for example, the curl pattern that you have could tell a story about which tribe you were from. Me wearing these braids and putting certain beads in it could tell a story about where I'm from. If your hair wasn't kept up, that meant that you were either in mourning or you were sick. We did not wrap our hair up. Your hair had to be done. That was a symbol of your status and your health. So hair was a really big deal.
Africans believe that God lived in our hair, that God nestled in our hair. And we believe that our antennas are our reflections, are how we reflect with the Most High, how we communicate with the Most High. So Black hair is very sacred. And the way that it breaks down our DNA, that's what makes it powerful. It's like the original hair on the planet. And when we talk about the original hair on the planet, we talk about the ancient Comatians. We talk about ancient Egypt. When we talk about the whole cosmology and the cosmetics, we talk about, the first wig that was ever made was made by Africans. It was a dome wig built like a pyramid, like an afro. Our hair is very sacred. It's ancient. It's the hair that's always been around. And when you look at our hair, you have to look at so many dynamics about hair, because all hair has, sebaceous glands and follicles and blood vessels and things like that. But our hair is it's a language within itself. When you see someone with an afro, it's speaking a language. It's talking to you. When you see someone walk in a room with braids or cornrows or locks, it's speaking an ancient language.
People spent a lot of time doing hair, and we were very particular about who did our hair. So even today, when people are like, I don't let everybody in my... That actually goes back to before this time. Like, we would let family members do our hair, or we would let people who we considered to be like griots, like very like spiritual people, to do our hair. Then when we talk about what happened in slavery, we can understand in context why that was so damaging to our psyche and spirit. Cutting people's hair off who believe spiritually in their hair, removing people's names and ways of being, that's a psychological thing. They couldn't mother, you can't read, you can't write, you can't do all of the things that make you fully human. You needed to care for your slaves because you couldn't buy more slaves. So that started to give us like the little Sunday where we could take care of each other, have service and all that kind of stuff. But before that time, when slavery was still like a trade and you could still buy slaves, care for slaves wasn't even a concern. And so there wasn't space to take care of your hair. There was like lice and infestation and a lot of baldness and hair coming out. And so what happened was our ancestors who were enslaved, they would wrap their hair to protect it from heat and from heat stroke and from like lice and all these other things. You come out of enslavement and there's this period where people are trying to define our identity. There are white folks trying to say like, well, if you want to move your status up in society, what you need to do is lighten your skin and straighten your hair. This is how you rid yourself of your African and enslavement past.
In this commercial from the mid-1970s, we see how companies like Ultrasheen use propaganda to sell their relaxers to Black American women.
Fantastic. Tell me, what is your prescription?
There's no prescription. I use Ultrasheen Permanent Cream Relaxer.
Oh, Ultrasheen really works, huh?
Yeah. It goes on cool and relaxes my hair, keeps it soft and manageable.
Oh.
Yeah, it works.
So I noticed.
I was one of those nappy-head little Negro boys. Growing up, we wore corvatuses, okay? Then I looked around, there's about maybe 5 or 6 of my partners who had gotten processes, okay? They were emulating the Temptations, the Dells, and some of the groups in the 60s that indeed processed their hair because they thought it looked good. So my best friend decided to show me how to do it. And it wasn't as bad as what Malcolm did and some of the others, but it burned my scalp. I was picking scabs off my scalp for weeks after that first process. And basically I said, no more.
In the 1992 film Malcolm X starring Denzel Washington, Malcolm X went through the painful chemical process of straightening his hair. This was to achieve the so-called white look, as Denzel explains at the end of this clip.
You're gonna flip. That's right. Watch your lip there. Cause you may sip. All right. Man.
Looks white, don't it?
The Black Panther Party is a very unique organization in American history because of some of the strategies and tactics that they used. Again, they sort of grew out of the Civil Rights Movement, and they are clearly the angry children of Malcolm X. You know, their leaders like Eldridge Cleaver and Huey Newton and Bobby Seale read Malcolm's autobiography, read and used his speeches and adopted his tactics. Their main tactic starting in Oakland was to police the police, because the police, were a terror in the African American community nationwide. And so for them to arm themselves, this using that Second Amendment that we still hear so much about, to arm themselves, to wear those leather jackets and berets, and of course, indeed, to wear the naturals, sort of set them apart from the well-dressed and conservatively dressed people who were in the civil rights movement, like John Lewis, and Martin Luther King. You may recall, if you saw them in those marches, they all had on ties and white shirts and suit coats and dressed very conservatively, non-threateningly, so that indeed they could win this sympathy and empathy from white people as the police beat them up on the streets, regardless of what they had on. But the Panthers decided to go the next step and say, we want to be threatening. We want to be menacing. And of course, big afros is very menacing to white people.
This brother here, myself, all of us were born with our hair like this, and we just wear it like this because it's natural, because the reason for it, you might say, is like a new awareness among black people that their own natural appearance, physical appearance is beautiful and it's pleasing to them. For so many, many years, we were told that only white people were beautiful. Only straight hair, light eyes, light skin was beautiful, and so black women would try everything they could, straighten their hair, lighten their skin to look as much like white women. This has changed because black people are aware, and white people are aware of it too, because white people now want natural wigs. They want wigs like this. Dig it? Isn't it beautiful? All right. Black is beautiful.
Hair used to reflect consciousness, and so anybody with an afro, you indeed felt that they were conscious. Of course, it eventually just became a style, but at the beginning, it reflected a certain consciousness that you knew who you were, that you were from Africa, and that you didn't feel like you had to straighten your hair or have it processed in order to be accepted. And so the Panthers sort of modeled that for a lot of us early on.
The afro was very much symbolic of reconnecting with our African roots, as well as solidarity, as well as pride in this phenotypical trait of kinky hair. The challenging thing, though, is that in the media, the afro was very much associated with militancy, with rebellion, with danger. So there are some people who would then say the reason why the afro fell out of popularity is because you have the 80s that came along and a different kind of fashion sense that was more mainstream, that was more acceptable. So the afro sort of fell by the wayside.
Yeah, I was sort of shocked by the Jerry curls. In the late 70s and early 80s, I started seeing people wearing these Jerry curls with all this oil and grease. And so, but the one brother just had one that was just dripping. So I say to him, "Why do you wear your hair like that?" And he says, "Well, I want to look good. I don't want no nappy head." That's the stuff. I said, "Damn, we retrogress." It's dripping down his neck, and the shirt's soaked, the collar of the shirt is soaked. And so I had to ask, being dumb, trying to figure out why? And I think and there's a tutoring class, so I just sort of put it out there. And they said, "Hey, we don't want our hair to be all nappy." I said, "Wait a minute. When did this happen? When did we go back, to the 50s? I thought we had won that battle in the 60s that your hair is your hair."
Can you make my hair look like this?
Oh, man, what you want to make your hair look like that for? Well, I like the way you wear your hair. Wear it natural, that's good, man. I wish more of the young children today would wear their hair natural like Dr. Martin Luther King did. That's right, you ain't never seen Dr. Martin Luther King with no mess of Jerry curl on his head, ain't that right?
Amen.
Dr. King ain't come walk around like that.
So when I started doing hair in the late 90s, relaxers were in, we were getting paid, hairstylists were making so much money because everybody wanted their hair bone straight. Your customers were coming back every 4 weeks because they didn't want to see any new growth at all. The money was good, the hair was laid. As we moved forward into 2000, 2002, more people started wanting natural hair.
If you ask two women the seemingly simple question, what is natural hair? You may be surprised to learn that they will most likely have two different answers. And you'll also find that for some, the answer is quite complex.
Being natural is not just having, healthy hair. It's a whole new way of living, because taking care of your hair, you're also taking care of your body, and people don't really notice that or know that. You drink more water, you hydrate yourself, you eat the right foods, you're helping your hair, but you're also helping your body and your way of living.
You got your die-hard natural folks who are like, no weave, no color, no nothing. Don't style it. You just, the way that your hair grows, that's natural.
No heat in your hair whatsoever. That's been like the main thing. When I look at anything editorial, they're just saying eliminate the heat. And I think it's definitely allowed my hair to grow with it without having any heat. But then also just the natural is literally no straightening products.
I think the definition of natural is hair that is not processed with chemical, like whether it be straightened or Texlax. So like the texture is relaxed but still curly. Some people will say that I'm not natural because I have dye in my hair, but I think that when I think about natural, I think of more so the pattern of your hair versus the color.
It's not changing the curl pattern. I think if you stick with your curl pattern and not putting a chemical on it to straighten it or alter your curl pattern, then you are definitely natural.
Well, natural hair to me is that you let your hair do what it does. And so what that means is however your hair is growing out of your head and its natural space and place in how it works. So to me, that's natural hair.
A state that has not been altered. When it comes to hair, when it comes to your body, we have a lot of women now that are going through, body changes. They're getting Botox, they're getting bottoms, they've been getting boobs, but they're getting liposuction and, all these lifts and all that. So to me, when you look at me, I'm pretty natural. I don't have any fingernail polish on. I have nothing in my hair. You can see my gray hair coming in. I don't even have my eyebrows done at this time. I've never had any body, it's just not being altered. That's my definition of natural, nothing being altered.
One reason that women are deciding to go natural is due to medical reasons. Essentially, the chemicals in relaxers break down the protein of the hair. Over time, the hair strands become thinner and weaker. Some women experience baldness. According to the Scientific American, Black women have more occurrences of fibroids than any other group of women. The chemicals in a relaxer also alter a woman's hormones. Relaxers have been linked to causing issues with reproduction and menstrual cycles.
I did perms in my hair, relaxers, for a long time. And sometimes I would scratch my scalp when I got home and it would still be white flakes on my scalp. So I'm like, where does the residue of that chemical go? It goes down into my hair shaft and that's where my brain is. So that could be a reason for Alzheimer's. We see in women a lot, cancers, breast cancers. We're seeing a high rate of cancers and diseases among women, high blood pressure, that are not explained for. And it could be the chemicals, not only what we eat, but what we intake in our bodies as far as relaxers and deodorant and toothpaste and, stuff like that, even though it may be just a little. But if you're doing this, 50 and 60 years, then it could be, fatal.
By the way, I am a cancer survivor, so I became more conscious about the things that I was putting in my body. And one of the things that kind of stopped me was a shampoo that I had to put on medically, and I read the side effects. Now, I hadn't did any research and saw somebody had some problems, but I saw that it had some cancer properties. When I looked up one of the ingredients, I went, wait a minute, this cancer.
this can, risk of cancer. So I said, you know what, I'm not gonna do that. So it made me want to go and look and see what natural things I could use on my hair.
So I've had, definitely hair horror stories. People trying to do their own hair, like put their own color in and a patch falls out, or put their own relaxers in and burning their scalp. I see patients who come in and have allergic reactions to dye. Hair dye is a very common allergy. So a lot of people who use hair dye at home, they end up having allergic reactions. And then they come into the office and, their scalp is burned, there's their patches of hair falling out, all of this just from hair dye. So I've definitely heard a lot of horror stories, a lot of trying to do things on their own and then been having the side effects basically of hair loss and other issues.
Now that you know the reasons why women go natural, is it a fad or is it here to stay?
This move, what I call a movement, is more so, it's getting more towards people doing it because they want to get back to just being really all natural as opposed to this is what's trendy.
It's another fad, mainly because, again, going back to my own experience where I thought we had won that battle over hair, but with each generation, it seems like we got to continue to win it. And so, and plus the consciousness isn't there. And so again, it's just a fad. I don't see any consciousness among young women or young men today.
Back in 2002, everyone thought that natural hair was going to be a fad. It wasn't going to live, and the legacy brands that are now pretty much extinct really thought, okay, this natural space is not going to take off. We'll continue doing what we're doing. It obviously was not a fad. It was actually a movement. So today, it's still here and it hasn't gone away. I think it's because back in the 70s, if you think of the Afro days when we were natural, that movement was a politically charged movement, right? And it was all about Black power. This movement is more emotionally charged. It's more about, I love who I am naturally. The movement has transcended past the fad, which I knew it would. It really is a way of life. And the more and more we educate ourselves, it's just like organic foods. We now know what's bad for our body. More people are buying more and more organic foods. I know I do. So the more you're educated, the more you want what's good for you and your family. So I think it's more of an educational opportunity. And it's been a process where we now know what's good for us. And so the market has exploded. It started very small and we had a lot of educating to do. And we did that. The brands that are the pioneers did a lot of educating in that space and showing Black love, natural love, and embrace the new natural woman. Today's Black woman that's natural is different from when my mom was natural. So we've really carved that out and created an opportunity for all the new brands to come in this space, which are here now.
So I spent most of today trying to flush yesterday's alcohol out of my body because the turn up last night was so real. I'm standing in line at the coffee shop and this woman had this stupid ass grin on her stupid ass face and I knew exactly what she wanted. I knew exactly what was going to happen next. She maneuvered that hole at the bottom of her head to ask me, can I touch your hair? Now keep in mind, she was already touching my hair while she was asking me if she could touch my hair. Now I'm not gonna say her race she was, because race has nothing to do with this story. She was white. They just said, oh my goodness, it doesn't feel dry at all. No, my hair isn't dry or unkept, and contrary to your belief, it smells amazing. I am Black. Us Black folk have hair of wool, skin of bronze, eyes like fire of flame. These brass feet will Sparta kick you in the chest if you ever touch my godliness without my permission. You can't touch my hair because I am not your pet or a specimen in a zoo. Venus Hottentot told me to tell you or no. I never sent invitations to your curiosity. Your hands are dirty. Don't touch me with your backhanded compliments. My history begins in my roots. I let my culture drape my crown while the tips of my lineage rest on my shoulders. There are strands of stories scripted at the top of my back, and no, you can't manhandle my mother's narrative. I'm protective of my temple. That's why I keep my birthright. I got tired of people stealing my culture, so I locked my hair so you can't get inside of it. You can't touch my hair. I'm still cleaning your ancestors' fingerprints off of it. This is not just our hair. This is our heritage. A representation of who we are. We are black. We are adaptable. We were designed with thick skin to safeguard our hearts and hands on our tongues to clap back. Don't touch my hair unless you know each strand by its name. See, this is Harriet, this is Henrietta, this is Marley, this is Kendrick, this is Cole, this is Blue Ivy, this is Ghana, this is Nigeria. Hell, all of it is Africa. There's a crescent continent from my spine to the top of my scalp, so I wear my hair like a sycamore fig waving from the banks of a middle passage. Don't forget where you came from, and don't forget where you going, and don't forget the women who twist, who cut, who primp, who weave, the women who sleep uncomfortably and sit in the same spot for hours just to get their head right for nobody else but themselves and their family. Myself and my family is not a sideshow or to be fondled in the middle of Starbucks while I am hung the hell over. So no, Cruella de Vil, you cannot touch my hair with your rude self.
Touching someone's hair is a very controversial act within the natural hair community, specifically if the person is a stranger. Some women are okay with it, and other women hold a strong position against it. This is such a popular topic that movies, documentaries, and pop stars have addressed the subject.
Don't touch my hair.
So is it okay to touch a woman's hair that you don't know?
No.
Why?
It actually perturbs me. Well, one, I don't know where your hands have been. Like, don't do that. Second of all, especially when I have my fro out, I have spent a full hour trying to get my fro to a perfect little sphere. So if somebody comes and put their little nasty hands in my fro, I have all kinds of problems. That has happened to me before, and I've lost it.
I was wondering, can I touch yours?
My hair?
Yeah.
I touch my hair.
Yeah.
Why?
It looks so interesting.
Are your hands clean?
Yeah. I just washed them. Mm-hmm. They're good. They're clean.
Just do it before I change my mind.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, weird.
When I'm in my 9 to 5, my hair is in a bun or in a ponytail or it's pulled back or up. And anytime it's in any way, shape, or form with some freedom, it never fails. They come in like this and it's, oh my God, is that your hair? Oh my God, can I touch it? Oh my God, look at your hair. Like, this is why I don't wear my hair down because y'all don't know how to control yourselves. But I allow it. But it does, it makes me not feel as free.
If you ask me, yeah.
Yeah. I always have white people, can't touch it. It's so pretty. I don't mind.
Okay, why don't you mind?
I don't know. I've never had an issue with this. Some people like this. Listen, this is my personal space, but maybe not a stranger. If it's someone that maybe I sat next to in a bar and they're cool and they're nice, can I touch your hair? Sure. But if someone just reached out, perhaps not. But typically, in the case that's happened to me, someone that's warming up to me, why not? Some people have a big issue with it, but I don't.
That is not okay. It's not a petting zoo. Like, just because it's different from yours doesn't mean that you have the right to explore without any type of restraint. Like, I just don't get it. Why people think that that's, something that they can just do. And I think it's a great educating opportunity, actually, when someone asks that. It's like, why do you feel the need to touch my hair?
I do believe that there is a sense of entitlement around the bodies of people of color, of Black people. There were human zoos. There were all these things that existed where our bodies were not ours. So not even just enslavement, but amusement parks. You could go and see and touch and pet Black people. That was a thing. And so, yeah, I do believe that, there is this subconscious sense of entitlement around Black folks.
I do not want strangers touching my hair. There have been times, I sound so angry about that, and I think it's rude. And actually what has happened, so the way that I illustrate this point, when people reach for my hair, I touch their chin. And they usually sort of jump back, and they quickly realize my point without me having to say a word.
You know, I like your hair.
Oh.
Can I touch it?
Oh.
Yeah? Okay.
Okay.
It's so nice.
Okay.
It's so thin, like, and blonde.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. Is this a natural hair color for you?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, no, we're good.
Okay.
We're good.
We are? All right,
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Yeah.
White females or white males that always want to touch my hair for some reason. I mean, I don't mind it. But usually it kind of goes, they'll just stop and they'll just look at me and they're like, the first thing they say, and I'm like, okay, do you really mean that? I wish I could get my hair to do that. And I'm like,
don't touch my hair. Our hair is very sacred. We could never in America walk up to a European woman and touch her hair. So what gives you the right to think that you can walk up to an afro or some braids or twists or locks or anything that's beautiful on an African woman and touch it without asking or getting permission? We have to teach them manners. We have to teach them how to respond to royalty. They say they know royalty. Nobody understands Queen Charlotte's royalty. Nobody understands Queen Anne Nzinga's royalty. You don't see a Queen Anne Nzinga and walk up to her and touch her hair. So we have to teach them good manners. They don't own us. We need to own us. And if we keep seeing that Europeans or any nationality has more credibility than our own ancestors, then something is wrong with this picture. Don't touch my hair. You ask. My hair is very sacred. My hair carries the power of God in it. My hair is different from yours. I pray over my hair. When I'm braiding my people's hair or touching any head, I make sure that I'm cleansing the head. I'm using good thoughts over the head. I'm praying for the hair. I'm praying for the person. So you don't touch our hair because our hair is sacred. And I don't think people get that. But I don't worry about what the Europeans get. I want us to get that. I want an African mother to know that it is not okay for just any hands to touch your daughter's afro. Let's stop letting people pet us like animals. We are not animals.
With the popularity and coolness of Black culture going mainstream, other ethnicities have started to wear some of the same hairstyles. But is this a mockery or appreciation?
Can you explain what cultural appropriation is?
Sure. It's when you take something that defines a culture that you're not a part of and profit off of it.
Cultural appropriation to me is a symbol of people's dying need to be like us. Meanwhile, we are dealing with psychosis where a lot of us are trying to shed ourselves. We are desperately trying to redefine ourselves according to the validation of all of these other people. Meanwhile, everybody's looking to us to stamp culture.
We are 10% of the United States. We are the small. We are really, really, really unique.
Yes, and we influence the world.
We influence the world. We're the reason why the country is so great.
I know that I define culture because all around the world, everybody is trying to talk like me, dress like me, look like me, do me. So at some point, I gotta be cool with me.
My attitude towards cultural appropriation is that, we all borrow from each other right now. It's kind of like there's this sampling culture where we all take a little from each other. But the real truth that is universal to me, that never fails, is that Black people set trends worldwide. And we are always at the forefront of the new. And people really watch us. And I don't have a problem with people co-opting some of the things that we do. But the issue is the economics part of it. Who reaps the financial reward? And that's when it becomes kind of like an exploitation type of thing, when people take from each other's culture and they make money off of it, but don't give credit and respect to the people that originated. And that's wrong to me.
Celebrities like Kim Kardashian angered Black fans when she wore cornrow braids, but gave credit to Bo Derek. Pop singer Katy Perry alienated her Asian fans when she wore a geisha outfit at the 2013 American Music Awards.
You're taking stuff from us, but you're putting a white face on it. It's like the Elvis concept, the Elvis dynamic, where, you know, Elvis was not the one who came up with that sound. He watched black artists and then he kind of like mimicked the things he saw, and he was the right face for the market.
You ain't nothing but a when Snoopy around the door. You ain't nothing but
And that's the issue I think that people are having with this idea of appropriation, is that, yes, you know, we're so fly, you know, yeah, take a little bit of our style, right? But, you know, give us the credit. You know, tell people where you got this from. Don't portray it as like you came up with something fresh and new.
I actually am one of very few people who know how to do white Rasta locks. Okay, and I'm a big fan on, if you have black children and you want to lock their hair, then you should be locked, or you should be a prime example of how a child should be. You know, if you have a total understanding of the culture and you immerse yourself totally in the culture, then I have no problems with white people wearing locks. But if it's for a hairstyle, then I have a problem with you wearing locks. Okay. But white people wearing locks, it's okay with me, as long as it's, and especially if you have a black child, you want to be a walking, talking example of what it should be. And what burns me up more is to have a mom with Trex glue and weave in her hair, and then the child is locked, and the child has no guidance, no one in the household that looks like them. So it's just a hairstyle for her.
There's a struggle between women who decide to wear their hair natural versus women who get their hair processed or sewn in. This debate can become insulting to the point that women are comparing hair textures and skin tones. So is there a hair war?
I've just seen people call out black women or natural hair will call out black women with relaxers and say that they're not black enough, or that they don't want to be black, or they would prefer to be white.
Pickaninny, Barbie doll, hi yellow heifer, tar baby, wanna be white, jigaboo.
Or then I see some people with relaxer hair that would look at natural women and say that their hair is nappy, or that they're not pretty, or, you know, I've seen both, and they just sort of, it's like both sides think they're better than the other.
Oh, you think you're better than me because you're natural, or, oh, you think you're better than me because you relax?
I ain't picking sides. Or they just say like, oh yeah, I'm natural too, girl, and then just cover it up with weave or wigs, and so I'm like, well, embrace it, you know?
And so it's like where you're not accepting your beauty how you are, your natural beauty, and some are going to no makeup and no. I think all of that is great. If that's where you are, that's wonderful.
Natural women kind of give me the eye, like, hey, how you doing? Whereas a relaxed woman will walk by and she'll be like, hey, how you doing?
We want them to make informed decisions on the chemicals that they're putting on their hair and in their body. And that's what's important to us. So if we have a sister that's natural and she chooses to straighten her hair, we don't have any issues with that, because she's not putting the harmful chemicals in her body or on her body to cause damage. So for me personally, I do not mind if they have straight hair or if they color their hair, but there are some people who are just like real militant about natural hair, and it makes other people feel uncomfortable, and we don't want to share negative energy. We should want to share positive energy.
So on one hand, you have people who I think are natural hair purists, right? They might look at me and say, well, you have gel in your hair. Why do you have gel in your hair? Why do you have conditioner in your hair? You should just let it grow out your scalp like it naturally does and don't do anything to it. This is my hair. I can do what I would like to do with my hair and style it how I would like to style with my hair, right? On the other end are, you know, there are people, and when I say on the other end, that might not be accurate. It might be better to say you have different perspectives. There are people who say, look, I don't like kinky hair. I relax my hair. It's my right to relax my hair, and you should relax your hair too, because you will never get a man, have a job, get a raise with that kinkiness on your head. I mean, these are women who are on both ends of the spectrum, right? And I keep saying that, but they do feel like sort of polar opposites. But the thing that's interesting if you notice, the common element between these two schools of thought is rigidity. Neither one of them wants to acknowledge that the other could have a valid point.
Naturals have become just bold in the recent years, and it's like, no nonsense, hands down. I'm here, my hair is here, we're here to stay.
Those people who don't have a serious sense of self find that they are more comfortable wearing someone else's hair. I have a total sense of self. If I cut it off, I'm still me. If I wear it locked, I'm still me. It is the brainwashing that we have to undo with a lot of our sisters, and who think that they need to assimilate into a Eurocentric standard of beauty. And it took generations of them doing it. It's going to take generations of us undoing it. And for those who say it's lazy or it's more manageable, what did our foremothers do before there was a weave, before there was tracks, before they washed their hair, they made time. They had wash day. They had time set a time in front of the stove with a hot comb or whatever it is to practice grooming practices. So there is no way that you can give me the excuse that it's easy, it's more manageable, I don't have time. Laziness is not an excuse. And you should always practice total self-acceptance.
I think the two worlds are kind of merging together. And what is helping that are the magazine covers and the television commercials. The hair care community is coming together as a whole now. They are providing products that will work on natural hair as well as relaxed hair. And now you see the commercials with the long, beautiful natural hair and relaxed hair. And they're interacting together. So, that's kind of all bringing a little bit of harmony to the situation.
I kind of just leave it alone. They have their preferences. They can like it or they cannot like it. But it'll be real interesting if there was a war to see who would win.
In the film Black or White, Kevin Costner's character had to learn how to comb his biracial granddaughter's hair. In the scene, he is unaware on how to manage her hair.
Not from the top down, from the bottom up.
Okay. Wow. This is every day?
Yep.
So I'm half white, half black, but I never met the black side of my family. So I was raised by the white side of my family, but I was raised in a black neighborhood. So we got a lot of pointers from the neighbors who thought that my hair was like their hair, but it's slightly different. It has a mixture of different textures, and sometimes it's really relaxed, sometimes it's really crazy, curly. So just trying to realize where my hair stood within that black-white community has always been a struggle. I'm still learning. I feel like my hair changes every 6 months. I swear it does. I've tried new products for it. So yeah, it was hard. And then people are kind of growing up, they weren't the nicest. So they didn't understand it. Little kids can be cruel. So always battled about, am I black? Am I white? Am I in the middle? Can I appreciate both sides and take it as a benefit that I have both sides, or am I missing something from both sides? And I never met the black side of my family, so that's always been tough too.
Yeah, I grew up in Portland, Oregon. Both of my parents are full-time musicians. Grew up in a mixed household. My mom is black, my dad is white, so I always grew up with both sides of that, both influences. Because my mom was black, I didn't have, she of course had an understanding of how to handle my hair. So I was cool hair-wise. I grew up with a basic understanding of how to take care of it, but I think generational divides have a lot to do with that too. My mom relaxed her hair for the first probably half of my life. And then she was diagnosed with breast cancer and all her hair came off. I've been adamant about being natural my whole life, even when, like, I would go to salons and they'd be like trying to get me to perm my hair, but I was just never for it. But my mom's hair fell off during chemo, and I ended up cutting mine off and growing it back, and it grew bigger than it's ever grown. And she was natural from then on. I navigate the world as a black woman, but I also navigate the world knowing that there are certain privileges I'm offered because I have a white father, and because I'm fair-skinned, and because I fit European beauty standards more so than other people. You know, I'd probably be white passing if my hair was straight, which is a whole different level of privilege. Also, I'd be very sad.
Why do you think you would be sad?
Here's another thing about being biracial. Sometimes you feel like you gotta advocate for your blackness. You know what I mean? You gotta prove your blackness to some extent. And I haven't had to do that as much because my hair pretty much speaks for my blackness.
So I can imagine that it is really traumatizing to a young biracial girl who's trying to fit in. She doesn't quite fit anywhere. She goes off to, one set of families' houses, and, they may all be white or Caucasian, and their hair is bone straight and blonde, and, it's blowing in the wind. And the next weekend, she's over at, another set of cousins' house who have curly curls and braids and twists, and she's just kind of caught in the middle and doesn't know how to accept herself for who she is, and she's getting maybe teased or backlash from both sides because she's not quite white enough or not quite black enough. So she's just kind of caught in the middle. I can only imagine how that feels.
I never thought about being mixed growing up until I was younger and kids made fun of me. But when I went to junior high school, in high school, they were predominantly white and no one cared about race, which was different. I realized I got a lot more flack from ethnic groups trying to bring me down versus other groups. I had never realized that racism was still alive.
The standard of beauty has traditionally consisted of long flowing hair, blue or green colored eyes, and fair skin. This standard has created a small proverbial box that many women of color will never fit into naturally. Many women of color are now choosing to go against the grain and take ownership of their beauty by embracing their God-given features.
These are the 3 things that would make me so very beautiful, right? So the first one was fair skin. In other words, I wanted to be white, right? The second thing that was really, really important to me was having light eyes. So maybe blue or hazel. Of the 3, the most important one was long, flowing, preferably blonde hair, right? Long,
Hollywood has definitely made it a thing for women with perms and women with weaves to be glorified a little more than a woman that rocks a natural afro.
There's very little understanding between the older generations and the younger generations. And I hear heaps of negative criticism from the older generation placed on younger people. And I'm one of those people that's sympathetic and to the younger, I understand them a little bit more. And I think that when it comes to hair, natural hair, a lot of older people, were victims of negative self-image.
So of course, growing up, you always wanted to be like the little white girls that they had their hair and they were swinging their ponytails, and we couldn't do that because we had press and curl and grease on our hair, so it was just stuck.
For black women and black people, our skin, the way that we look, our features and hair has always been a tool for shaming. If your hair is not straight, you should be embarrassed about it. If your skin is too dark, you should be embarrassed about it. We all have gone through elementary and middle school and heard the jokes, possibly have been the butt of the jokes, made the jokes, so it definitely has an effect on how we see ourselves, the way that we are perceived, I guess, by the outside world. That projection onto us makes us see ourselves in a certain way.
Beauty standards can be internalized. So when if you have a situation where women are considered beautiful when their hair is straight, when it's pressed, and if you start to see the kinky edges, that means that you are somehow less polished, not quite as, I would get in trouble also if I got my hair straightened or pressed with a hot comb. And before we went to church, my edges started to pop up. That meant I had been doing something I wasn't supposed to be doing, right? Because the straighter the style, the more polished and refined it looked, and it was judged to be.
The media has done a good job in terms of conditioning us that lighter is better. You see it played out in TV shows, you see it played out in hip hop videos. So anything that's like not completely black is kind of lauded. And so I think media it plays a big part in our acceptance of ourselves and of our black imagery.
Black women did not used to be the standard of beauty. So we had to wrestle a lot. We had to fight our way up to say what we have is beautiful. Our lips are beautiful. Our nose is beautiful. Our color is beautiful. And now that everybody else is trying to get what we have, our shape is beautiful. Our backside is beautiful. All of these things that wasn't beautiful before. So we've been fighting. And then we had to feel like at some point that we were fighting our men who would look at the other and say, oh, but we like them better. So we have had to struggle and come up through a lot. So that's why it means something to prove, to say, hey, this is beautiful. So that self-image piece is so, I'm telling you, is so ingrained in all of this. And that hair had so much to do with it.
It's important for us to keep it balanced, to acknowledge that we do have this rainbow of colors and hues and textures, but also we have to celebrate, true blackness. We cannot put our darker skinned sisters down. And another thing that I try to do when I do portray women that are darker on my blog, I try not to do it in a sexualized way all the time, because it's kind of like it's unfortunate that a lot of darker skinned women are sexualized a lot in photography, and I try to put them more on the goddess level.
Speaking of goddesses, Kadea Diop is a model from Senegal who is breaking down the barriers in the modeling realm. This is due to the fact that Kadea is one of the darkest models in the world. Kadea is helping to redefine the universal standard of beauty. As a child, she struggled with her appearance and was bullied frequently because of it. Now, she has modeled for top brands such as L'Oreal and has been featured on major networks.
And this happened like a year ago. And that's right before my pictures went viral, right before anyone knew about me. And I would just sit in my room and not go anywhere. I was scared of going to school. I wouldn't go outside. I wouldn't even go to the store because I was ashamed of how people would look at me or the comments. Even though some people would come up to me and be like, oh, you're beautiful, I would see it as, I would still feel insecure about my skin tone because I was bullied when I was a kid and growing up like that. I just had that mindset growing up, and it's been hard, but I'm so grateful that I had to experience all these things and fully understand who I am and embrace myself, yeah.
So when Lupita was put on the cover of Vogue magazine, I think that was really a captivating moment for Black women, not just Black women, but Black women with natural hair. I mean, Lupita's a dark-skinned woman with short, natural hair, and the fact that they would put her on the cover, that is saying that this is beautiful. Although everybody else says that it may not be beautiful, it is. And Vogue is so high profile that so many different people got to see that and see that that was celebrated. The skin was celebrated and her hair was celebrated.
Hi. Tamika, right?
Yeah.
How you doing, Tamika?
I'm good. How are you?
I almost didn't recognize you there for a second.
How so?
Your hair.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I haven't changed my picture on the profile, so.
Yeah, it was pretty long on that dating app.
Yeah, I had a protective style, so.
Natural, right?
What you know about natural hair?
Girl, I know all about natural.
You sure? Because you didn't know what a protective style was.
I love my women nappy.
I'm sorry. Say it one more time?
Sure. Nappy. I love my women nappy.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm gonna go before I have to cut you out. Enjoy your little latte.
Okay.
Because the movement is out. Now I hear men saying, I don't want women with weave in their hair and I want them to be natural and I don't. You know, I just feel like that a man's job is to love a woman how she is and how she thinks that she looks the best. So if she wants to be natural, not that you don't have a preference and say, well, you know, I like your hair longer, shorter, whatever. Of course you have preferences. But at the end of the day, it really can cause division because if a man says, oh, you know, I want to embrace the natural now, I don't want you to have weave, or I want to embrace the weave and I don't want the natural, you're ostracizing women. And what you're still saying is there's a division that this one is better than that one. And it's not. That's not the case. It's just how somebody feels at that moment. Because you can want to be natural and a year later, you're done with it. Or you can want to do weave and a year later, it doesn't matter, you know? So I don't believe that a man should put that onto a woman.
The movie's called Something New, where the white guy criticizes her for wearing a weave. That's all hell.
Can you take this off?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, it's not a wig, right? But it's not your real hair either, is it?
I can't believe you just asked me that.
I'm sorry, just curious.
It's a weave, if you must know. I thought you dated black girls.
They had real hair.
I have real hair too.
Underneath?
Yes, underneath.
So what, they sew it in?
Something like that.
Come on. How dare he? And of course, he stops her from wearing a weave.
There may be, there's some truth to the myth, you know, that guys don't care how girls wear their hair. Mainly because they know if they say they don't care, there will be a backlash from their significant other. You know, well, I need to do this. I got to get this done. I think it's always an excuse or a reason on their significant other's part to have to, you know, alter their hair. So we just kind of just let it go. It's your hair. You do what you want to do with it. But I mean, I believe deep down inside, you know, they wish they got rid of it. I know plenty of guys, you know, a lot of my guy friends, they hate it. They just don't say nothing.
Men sometimes prefer a natural hairstyle that, you know, everybody else likes. I know some guys don't like the kinky or Afrocentric hairstyle because they're like, I don't like that style. But then you have others who are like, I don't like it straight. I want you to wear your curly hair. I want you to wear your Afrocentric. So I've experienced both cases, and I think that it just depends on the person that you're dating.
Yeah, because one of the processes of going natural is cutting the perm out your hair. You know, so she had long hair.
He had
natural
30
hair.
minutes. I called him and I said, look, I'm about to do the big chop, okay? So, and the first thing he said was, what? Wait, what did your hairstylist say? And he got on the phone and he was trying to get in touch with her. And I came home and I had the baby locks. And all he could say was, it looks good though. It looks good though.
My second oldest daughter, her mother got her at an early age into wearing weaves and putting extensions in her hair. Her hair was fragile. And in the beginning, it helped to give her some confidence, but over time, it developed into a dependency. And I would have to start reinforcing to her that you're beautiful without it. So on my weekends, I would always ask, how long have you had it? Because, you know, I'm gonna ask you to take it down. I'll deal with your mom at that, but for me, I prefer you without it. And she would struggle because her hair was short, but just reinforcing that, constantly telling her that you're beautiful, you're fine without it, you're great, your hair is okay without it, you're good, you're killing it. And then having a balance, because I can go overboard with it. But from that journey there, when she met my current wife, she started her to understand that, okay, yeah, your dad's right to an extent, but what you're doing at this point is a protective style, and started getting her into knowing how long, you know, sometimes you put it in, you only go so far, take it out. You gotta wear it without it for a while. And to check your lens, see is it strengthening, condition it, wash it, do all those things to take care of it. She wasn't doing that. She was just simply wearing it because I don't like how I look. So for me, it was constantly reaffirming that you're beautiful.
There's a big group of black men that appreciate natural. from no makeup to natural hair, all those different things. There are a few that are a little superficial and they like the hair weave and they want you to look like somebody off a magazine cover, but I do think the amount of men that appreciate natural hair is actually bigger than what people think it is, at least in my experience. They actually like it. They prefer it.
I love a woman with natural hair, first and foremost. I prefer it. I've dated girls, or women rather, who wouldn't let me see them with their natural hair, and that really bothered me. It could have just been, hey, I'm gonna come by and just see you for a little bit. Oh, my hair's not done. I don't care, it's your hair. I don't wanna see, an unnatural hair color or something that's synthetic, or just, I don't wanna see you do this, every 5 minutes when I'm talking to you. It gets annoying.
I'll get some black dudes that like my hair. Africans like my hair. The Caucasians I work with are intrigued by my hair. It's always doing something different. They can't quite figure it out. I'll have black people ask me too, like, is that all you? Like, is that yours?
Particularly with black men, I think people think that like colorism is a way to holla at me, and like it never has been.
Girl, you that extra, you know what I'm saying? You that cup of coffee with extra cream, you know what I'm talking about? I wonder, is you sweet?
Whether it be comments on my skin.
Yeah, girl, you about as bright as the sun. Just want to let you know you high yellow. You know what I'm talking about? Let me guess. Your mama white, your daddy black. Which one is? Which one?
I've cut my hair off various times to avoid the light skin, long hair complex because I just can't. Like, I don't want to be admired for that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because it's colorism, period. Like, that's not hot. Like, that's not cute to me. Like, I'm not interested in you if the first thing you have to say to me is about the color of my skin or stuff like that.
Let me get into detail and tell you a little about me. Well, I like the chick that thrifts as opposed to the chick that spends in retail on things that everybody else got. Like, are you yourself or not? Don't worry about what's hot. Gonna rock your low tops and polka dots. And most of these women is Photoshop. I like that natural look, the afros and curly hair with a knapsack full of books, and got a brain to know how to use it, know a little something about good music, know how to cook food too, hop in the kitchen and go foolish. I ain't really seen a lot of movies. I know a lot about self-improvement. If you into them things, great. And if not, that's still cool. And we can kick it like a kick me sign. I'm just break you off a little peace of mind for your peace of mind, so ease your mind and don't mind me, because really I'm just observing you being natural.
Black hair has made the news on numerous occasions. Stories like Gabby Douglas, who was criticized by her own community for not having her hair in perfect condition while performing gymnastics during the Olympics.
Yeah, I was like, come on, people, I made history. And you're focusing about my hair, and I thought it looked great.
The military banned certain hairstyles worn by African American women, but the ban was later lifted.
And that was one of the things that happened just recently in 2014, specifically with the AR 670-1, that's the Army regulation, is explaining how the women should wear their hair in, uniform. And one of the words that they said was unkempt, as far as like the natural hair and everything. And with social media being the way that it is, it helped to open the eyes that no, our hair is beautiful naturally the way that it comes from our head, and we are not allowing you to tell us because we wear our hair in this natural state that it's unclean and it's not beautiful. And they were able to change the regulation because of that.
Countless news reporters like Rhonda Lee were fired for standing up to social media bullies on Facebook who had a problem with her ethnic hair. Demetria Obelar was also publicly judged on social media for her natural curves and natural hair.
The controversy is coming from people who aren't too happy with the way that I look on television, saying, oh, her body is too big for that dress, or she's too curvy, or her hair is unprofessional, it's crazy, we don't like it. A quick word to those people. This is the way that I'm built. This is the way that I was born. I'm not going anywhere, so if you don't like it, you have your options.
Even cartoons are used as propaganda to make girls feel bad about their own hair.
What's happened? That's so terrible. A catastrophe.
Look what happened to my hair. Normally it's straight. I was just walking down the hall when poof, my whole head of hair puffed up just like that.
many stories can be told, we chose to spotlight a hair story that literally changed the law.
In 1995, the state of Texas sent to me a letter saying, we heard that you're braiding and you can't braid. And so I just disregarded it because I didn't know what it was. I can't braid hair because I had gone from braiding in my house to a storefront. Then I received the letter and it said that you can't braid in this area in a storefront. So I didn't understand. In 97, no warnings, nothing to alarm me that I was about to go to jail for braiding. I look around and there's 7 cops standing in the shop ready to cart me off like a common criminal. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, this has got to be a joke. But anyway, they handcuffed me. They read me my rights and put me in the car and took me off to jail. Then it became a law against braiding in the state of Texas. And my crime was braiding without a cosmetology license. So then I had to get a lawyer and find a place to live because me and the children were homeless. They put an injunction on the shop. And basically I had to go somewhere else at someone else's house to reestablish myself and just kind of get myself together. One day I just said, you know what, I'm going back to my shop. And I went back to the shop, and at that time, I got a lawyer to represent me.
This is Dana Isis Brantley apparently committing the crime again. She's braiding hair without a license. She was arrested Monday for failing to pay her fine for doing the same thing 2 years ago.
Hair braiding is, in fact, a part of or defined as the practice of cosmetology.
In court in 1995, the state argued she needed to take the full course required of beauticians before she could braid. But after this conviction, the state called a 2-year moratorium and changed the law to require a shorter 300-hour hair braiding and weaving course.
So for about 10 years, from 97 to 2007, the state of Texas and I were back and forth with why it was illegal to braid and lock hair in Texas and why I needed to be a barber and have so many hours up under my belt before I could teach or braid hair in the state of Texas. So we're back and forth. In 2007, they said, oh, we couldn't find anyone that can braid like you. Oh, we have nobody that know anything about the art and they haven't been teaching like you. We're gonna grandfather you. We're grandfather you in. So what they did going back and forth in that 10 years, they took my 35-hour curriculum and they copied it and they refurbished it and put it together for a requirement for people in Texas to have these 35 hours before they could become braiders or locticians or, before they could just practice the art, period. So after that, I realized they weren't going to let me teach anymore. So from 2007 to 2015, I had to get some more people involved, and that's when I contacted or ran into lobbying. I was lobbying at the Austin's Capitol. It was during a time that I could go and try to find some politicians to help me win my case, and I ran into someone from the Institute for Justice. And basically, I told them who I was and what I was fighting for was the right to work and the right to braid in Texas. And they said, wow, we'd love to take your case. So they took the case and the momentum continued. And here I am. I won the case unanimously in the House and in the Senate. Changed the law, federal law on a federal level. It has never been done before. I can now safely braid in the state of Texas, shampoo hair as well, and I can continue to teach the next generation the art of hair braiding in the state of Texas.
Younger women sometimes get frustrated by the older women in their family because the older women tend to look down on the new wave of natural hair. Does a generation gap exist?
Is there a generational gap with how the older generation views natural hair? I absolutely think so. My grandmother, unless you had hair that looked like mine and you weren't natural, you need to straighten it. And she had 10 kids, and so all her kids look different. And she had some with kinkier hair and some with finer hair. The finer kids, you're good with your curly hair. If you had an afro, go straighten that. So I think a very ignorant perspective on natural hair. Really, and self-hatred. Self-hatred. And I think this generation, now we're embracing our color, our texture, and everything. No more good hair versus bad hair. I mean, she would use that term, good hair.
Actually, my dad, he's like, cut your hair, get a good job, stop working in this trying to be cool, hip agency world, like, you need to get a corporate job. So it's really my family. My grandmother, before she passed, she would make snide remarks about, oh, you got those snakes growing out of your head, So it's kind of like the older generation is the one that they seem to struggle with. And being in a professional setting. Like their world was all about conformity. But for us, we have a little bit more license. And I think that, that's been the beauty of it all, is that, I'm able to fit in and present to people, to present to corporations, corporate types, and still be, confident that, my appearance is not taken away from my credibility.
She need to do something with that head. Or, a friend of mine said that she, her hair's natural, and she was talking about going on a job interview, and her mother, what you gonna do with your head? What do you mean? That head, you can't go like that. Why not? Why not? They don't get it. They don't think it's acceptable. They don't think it's, but acceptable to who? Acceptable to who? Basically, white people won't accept you if you don't look like them, is what I get from that.
My aunt was just picking around at my edges and was like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with me. I don't have to do anything to my hair, so I'm great, but this is a person, and I love my aunt, but this is a person who's permed all of the hair out of her head, pretty much, so I think that, and I know the background, she grew up here in the South, she grew up in a rural town. I understand, like, for some of our elders, they came out of a very difficult time where how you looked really determined a lot about you in terms of people of your own race and people of the dominant race. You had to be pristine and you had to be perceived in a certain way. So I understand where they're coming from, but I can't give it any attention. So, we laugh and I keep moving.
You have to remember, Afrocentric phenotypical traits will get you killed in the past. Phenotype has to deal with sort of genetic traits. So if you look at people of African descent, we tend to have wider lips, wider noses, higher cheekbones. We have darker skin color. Those are phenotypical traits, right? So at a time in history, you were identified as someone who should be enslaved based on your phenotypical traits, right? And so there came a point where I think to survive, people of African descent tried to blend in. They tried to minimize those phenotypical traits. If you had kinky hair, it could be for the purposes of preventing your hair from being dirty, but many women covered their hair in scarves and rags. I don't know if they were instructed to do so by the people who claimed that they owned them, or if that was a personal choice, but it was covered. Your hair was covered. Now, if your hair was long and straight and silky, you also might do the same thing, but then come socialization, you might pull that scarf off or that headscarf off, perhaps more proudly because your hair was straight and it reflected sort of Eurocentric standards and norms. So I think it's important to remember that people with Afrocentric traits were penalized, and it could threaten your very ability to survive.
Hey, Andrea! Andrea! Hi, come on in, Andrea, if you would, please.
You needed to see me?
I did. Why don't you close the door, if you would, please? In fact, why don't you leave it cracked?
Leave the door cracked.
On second thought, leave it like it's glass. No one cares. Becky! Thank you. I was starting to get nervous.
May I ask why we're in the conference room and why HR is present?
Becky, oh, don't worry about it. Andrea, have a seat, please. Look, Andrea, I don't know how to say this without it coming off racist.
Racist?
It's your hair.
My hair.
Yeah, we've got new policies with the dress code, and the one thing, the dress is fine. You look great. But the one thing you can't wear is that.
My hair? I can't wear my hair?
You can wear your hair, you just need to make it a little more relaxed.
Relax.
Yeah, less black.
Less black.
More Darla, less buckwheat.
Excuse me. More Darla, less buckwheat. You call me buckwheat.
Andrea, wait. Andrea.
Well, that went well.
So I think it's important for organizations to understand Afrocentric hair and natural hair in the workplace because it's a much bigger issue than what natural hair may connote. They might think, well, this is just about hair. It's not that big of a deal. But natural hair, again, is this mutable trait. It's this identity-relevant trait that people can change. It reflects their heritage. It may reflect their age. It may reflect any number of identity categories. And so when organizations finally recognize that natural hair is about much more than just what someone has on top of their head, it has a lot to do with the psychological identity process, they'll realize that when they put, for example, policies in place that say you have to have straight hair, or that they're actually triggering something that they may have no idea about. So I really want organizations to understand natural hair is much larger than you may think, and that there are unintended consequences and or landmines that you could be stepping on when you try to develop policies that prevent or constrain how people wear their hair.
Destiny Tompkins has worked at this Banana Republic store at the Westchester Mall in White Plains for just about a month. She was called into a meeting with her manager on Wednesday, caught completely off guard by what happened next.
He was like, yeah, so the district manager came in. She pointed out something about your hair. And I'm like, okay, so what's wrong with my hair? He said, it's a little too urban and unkempt for our look and for our image. We were just wondering, like, if you could just take them out. It's basically like you're just telling me I'm too black to work here, and you have a problem with the way I present myself as a black woman.
Banana Republic did release a statement today saying it is investigating the incident. Quote, we are committed to upholding an inclusive environment where our customers and our employees feel respected.
I know a lot of women who are professionals, and they, when they get promotions, they're contracted. They're under contract not to wear their hair a certain way. And that is what deters a lot of women that I know.
So when I do twist outs or something like this, they hate it. My grandma was like, they really let you go to work like that?
I believe, honestly, that corporate America is starting to learn that diversity is key. And if you're going to focus on diversity, you have to embrace all of the different aspects of each of the different races that makes them unique. There are challenges that we do have in corporate America because everyone does not know how to embrace an African American woman's true texture. As I said before, there's confusion that's associated with that. But corporate America has come a long way in embracing that because you're starting to see more and more African American women that are climbing the corporate ladder that are donning natural hair styles. And I've never seen that before, and definitely not as much as I do see that right now.
Why it's important for women of color to open a business is because it is hard to make it up that corporate ladder when you have already a whole bunch of odds stacked against you. So why fight so hard to make someone see the value that you bring to the table if they don't? Why not go after and make it happen for yourself? And that's why I think it's important. Own how far you go. Determine how much money you want to make. Don't let someone else determine that for you. And if you don't have entrepreneurial blood or spirit, keep doing what you're doing. But if you want to do more and control your destiny, the way to do so is entrepreneurship. And I 110% agree wholeheartedly on that.
There's something about a woman who owns her own business. There's something about a woman who owns her own business in the beauty industry. The confidence level is off the charts. She believes in herself. Her children look up to her. Her husband, has another level of respect for her. So, I think there's something to be said about a woman entrepreneur.
What I've learned is we're literally taking our market back. A lot of people think they know what we would like, think they know what our hair would like, but they're creating products that they don't even use themselves or what they assume that an African-American woman would know. But then I ask them in these meetings, remember, I'm a member of the Cosmetic Chemists, and so I'll see the people that create for other brands, and I'll ask them, so how much slip does that have? And they're like, what's slip? And I'm like, okay, so I know the chemical formula of what you're putting in there, but you don't even know the practical use of it. And so having us literally use our own products and making it for ourselves, and we're making it for each other. So it's almost like I'm sharing my gift with my people. What more special? There's nothing that's more special than that. And then also too, we're benefiting from it, and the dollars are being recycled into ourselves. And then as Black women, most of the Black women that I know also contribute to your community as well too. So the dollars are really recycling. My niece is here, she's 1 year old. I'm showing her the example that women can be in business and make it to the levels of Walmart and the Target. And it's also a good example for other people too, because I've inspired a few people since, even starting in business too. So it's representation matters.
Because I grew up with Supreme Beauty products and the company that made Afro Sheen. And with all these Black-owned hair companies that were, meeting the needs of a market, and then when they sold out, I said, why are they selling their companies to Avon and Estee Lauder and literally giving up a market that they had dominated and had been able to do so much by having a market like this where indeed Black people are going to buy hair products and cosmetics to fit their needs. Then they get out. And the next thing I know, not only are they these companies no longer Black owned, the Koreans have taken it over. And I'm saying, how the hell did that happen?
The Black hair care industry grosses $15 billion annually. There are more than 10,000 beauty supply stores nationwide. 96% of the revenues come from Black consumers.
I think it's unfortunate that we do not own who we service. We have these products that we've created for us, and another culture, another race has a total monopoly on these beauty supply stores. It's horrible. I think we lost the opportunity to service us. What's more disturbing is the fact that Koreans won't let others in. They will not let others in. I had a friend in Sacramento, Black woman, who opened a beauty supply store and tried to own or work with a distributor. They're all Korean as well. So the Korean distributors that sell to the Korean beauty supply stores work together. And they can keep you out of supply. They want you to. So the distributors and the Korean stores work together. They give each other their business. If you're not Korean owned, you can have an extremely difficult time getting product just to sell in your store. So that happened in the case of my friend Tamiko, and she wound up going out of business. Terms, wouldn't give her terms, pricing was different. Some wouldn't sell to her. It was horrible. So they work really well together. But they're not really interested in opening up the gates to let anyone else in either. So that's unfortunate. How do we take it back? I don't know if that's an opportunity, but I would love to. But we have to first be the distributors to make a difference.
The issue with the industry is distribution. The Asians are the dominant distributors. So what happens is we still got Black manufacturers. They got the Black Embassy,
But if you can't distribute, it don't matter.
Exactly. So once Black manufacturers send the products to the distributor then decides who's going to get the products and at what price. So if we get enough retailers on the ground, then we can start focusing on becoming distributors, and then we will take over the entire supply chain.
We must stand together in this movement. Hair is a big industry. Making products is a big industry. We have hit so many people in their pockets. We have stopped so many people from growing. And this is the power of Black Wall Street that we need to bring back together for the freedom of Black hair in America. Let's stand together for group economics.
Remember who you are and embrace that and know that it's okay to be who you are.
I got insecurities, and sometimes I don't love me like I should. I got pride.
If someone wants to go natural, I would say to them, you are beautiful. You were born with the hair that you have. Embrace your hair.
That nobody sees, and not everything I write is that good. And sometimes
when I think of swag, you gotta have confidence. When I'm natural, I feel like I have all the confidence in the world.
I ain't that special, I ain't that profound, but I have been blessed with the power.
You have embraced who you are. I am going to approach you in a respectable manner because you obviously respect yourself.
I sing what I can't say, I write what I fear. The pieces I most hate.
I would encourage women who are out there that they all should embrace their goddess power. If more of us embrace those elements, I think that it will transform the world.
Honestly, what I tell my daughter, for example, is I want her to be able to wear her natural hair wherever and however, whenever she wants to, and to be bold enough and brave enough to blaze a trail so that even if she's joining a context where they might not accept it, that she'd be willing to engage in some of that conversation so that it becomes more acceptable.
Sometimes I shouldn't speak, but the voice inside my head says I should. I ain't that special.
Because I didn't know our hair could grow so long, so I've been amazed that you just leave it to it and you know, don't put the heat and all the stuff on it, and it'll just grow. And sometimes I'm going up to somebody going, is that your, oh my God, your hair is so long. And so I think it's wonderful, and then I see them doing the same thing. So it's really all about how that hair is making you feel.
That kid, that girl, they're the cool kid. Why? Simply because of their swag, simply because of their identity, simply because of their culture. You still have that with all the oppression laid on top of that. That says a lot about how powerful you are.
Wouldn't tell you how I feel if I could.
We've always been the salt of this earth. We've always been the cradle of civilization. I nursed you. And I feel wonderful about that. There's nothing in my history, nothing in my reality that can make me feel less than the goddess I am. I feel good being black in America.
We were stripped from our heritage and cut off from knowledge and the proper tools that allowed us to be our best. Then the next generation of people were brainwashed into believing that we were inferior and not good enough because we did not look like the enslavers. Throughout the generations, we've become stronger in spite of the adversity. Now, we are standing before you with stronger minds and spirits. We are telling society that we will no longer be made to feel less than. No longer will we sacrifice our health and spirits to blend in with the majority. We are stepping into who we are and bridging the gap between generations, becoming bosses of our own enterprises, changing the perception of who we are, loving ourselves and one another. And this is why I'm natural.
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 This is why I'm natural.
And 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 this is why I'm natural.
This is why I'm natural.
This is why I'm natural.
Excuse me, ma'am, I just had to let you know that your crown is so beautiful. I don't discriminate, but it's something about your natural hair. Such a fearless, prideful, sexy little girl, you make me swear. Damn.